What is up, you guys? This is All Danny Day 1 on the PS4, and I'm going to be giving you a guide video for the Necromancer. So this video is pretty much going to be going over the rotation that I go with. You don't necessarily have to go with the same rotation. You can go with whatever rotation you feel comfortable with using, but you can also go with the same rotation. And I'll also be going over the abilities for the Necromancer, and just pretty much explaining what synergizes best with what abilities. So let's go ahead and take a look at the abilities. So you have three different stances. You have the basic stance, summoning stance, and lich stance. So with the basic stance, it gives you all these other abilities, your regular abilities. So you have skull throw. It's a 20-second cooldown. It inflicts 12.1 million damage to the enemy, consumes 10% of the Necromancer's health, and generates 10 points of necrotic energy. When hitting monsters below the elite level and player characters, the damage is increased by 30% for 8 seconds. Ritual Strike, Plague Storm, and Hellfire have a respectively 25, 25, and 10% chance to apply Toothly Grin to the Necromancer for 15 seconds. Bared Fangs resets the remaining cooldown of the Skull Throw, increased damage of the next use by 100%, and the critical hit chance is increased by 50%. So this is I normally don't use this on bosses unless that's the only enemy that's there, or elites. Like it says, you do 30% more damage to enemies less than elites, but it still does a good chunk of damage to bosses and elites anyways. Next you have Ghostly Allies. This is your summon ability to summon monsters to fight on the Necromancer's side. And then you've got Rift of Horror, which is circle or B. It's a 40-second cooldown. Creates a rift on the ground that inflicts 3.37 million damage. Monsters in the area of effect, or AoE, take 675,000 damage every 0.5 seconds for 15 seconds, as well as get into a panic for 10 seconds. This consumes 8% of the Necromancer's health and creates 8 points of necrotic energy. So this ability, it's it is a close ranged ability. You have to be within melee range of the enemy to make use of this. There are some enemies, for some reason, there's some enemies that don't take damage from this. Um, I'm not exactly sure why. It seems like it's the enemies that are under elite type enemies. But or if there's a bunch of enemies around, then I can definitely notice the difference of seeing a bunch of enemies getting hit by Rift of Horror versus just one enemy. But maybe it's just because I'm seeing a bunch of numbers popping up. And then you have Cursed Land, which is R1. Creates Cursed Land. The movement speed of all enemies in the area is reduced by 50%. Enemies that die on the Cursed Land turn into carrions, up to 3, and fight on the Necromancer's side for 10 seconds. Consumes 3% of health and generates 3 points of necrotic energy. If the Necromancer is in combat when using this ability, pulls the enemies that try to leave the Cursed Land back into the center. The effect works on each enemy only once in 12 seconds. So this is just a giant AoE. It doesn't do any damage, but like it says, it does slow the enemies down, and it also pulls the enemies back into the center. And if they try to leave, they get pulled back in the center. But they can only be affected by that pull every 12 seconds. But then again, that 50% movement speed reduction is really, really useful. But the only thing is, you can't pull big enemies like a tank or a Pegasus. Actually, I think you can pull the Pegasus, but I know you can't pull the boss Pegasus is in the back in the center. Now you got Ghostly Strike. This is your combo builder, your combo ability. What's gonna happen is you're gonna use Ghostly Strike with the Cursed Land, but Cursed Land has two different. They have Plague Clouds or something like that, and then they have Hellfire. So Ghostly Strike, it has three different attacks, three different combos. So you have one strike, which is just one hit. if you used R2 and then R2, no, never mind. Let me take that back. So if you use R2 and then R1, that summons Hellfire. And Hellfire is a giant AoE. It's pretty much just as big as Cursed Land, or if anything, a little bigger than Cursed Land. And that only lasts for 4 seconds. Hellfire lasts for 4 seconds or 5. 4 or 5, depends on how you wanna look at it. But then if you use R2, then R1, then it's gonna summon the Plague Clouds, which is gonna it's not an AoE ability, it's a single target ability, but it does good single target damage anyways. And I think even if it were to be AoE, it's not that big of an AoE. At least I never really noticed it hitting multiple enemies. I always use it on single targets anyways. And then if you use R2 3 times, that's just finishing. That's just it. There's no other combos with that. So you have R2 R1, and then you have R2 R2 R1. Those are the only 2 combos you have with Ghostly Strike when it comes to using combos. And then Shadow of the Past creates a magic statue. After 5 seconds, it pulls the Necromancer towards it and restores their health to the amount they had at the time the ability was used. It's a 1-minute cooldown. I don't know if I just said that. I'm pretty sure I did. But the way this pretty much works is if you have full health, you use Shadow of the Past, and then you start taking heavy loads of damage. Within that 5 seconds, you'll just get teleported back into your statue, and then you'll get your full health back. So you generally want to use this. You want to know the mechanics of what you're gonna be fighting first before, because if you let's say you do D1 against demons, like Mashad, I think that's his name, or the boss's name. The boss has a laser mechanic where he will lock onto you and just start hitting you with laser. So if you know he's going to aim at you, just use L2 square, Shadow of the Past, right before he does that, and then, or as soon as he does that, and then you'll get hit, and then once he's done, you should be able to get back into your statue. Or if you know a boss is going to do like a one-shot mechanic or something that'll do just heavy loads of damage, or there's just a bunch of adds, that's when you're going to want to use this, because it is a long cooldown. It's not a short one, so make sure you're kind of smart about it. Don't just use it out of the blue. Now you have the Lich form. The Necromancer shifts into the Lich form, which allows them to use special abilities that restore health. The more resource is available when the ability is used, the longer the Necromancer stays in that form. So that's where your resource is going to start coming in handy. So the skull throw, and then if you use Hellfire, Cursed Land, or the Plague Clouds, that'll build up necrotic energy, and you need necrotic energy if you want to stay in the Lich form a lot longer. So the longest you can stay in Lich form, I believe, is 8 seconds, 8 or 10 seconds. But it's the thing about Lich form is that's where you're gonna be turning into the Lich form, or the Grim Reaper, whatever you want to call it, to get your health back. It's not like a super ability like a god form. It's just only to be used to get your health back. And also a good thing about the Lich form is it can pretty much auto activate. It auto activates when you have very, very low health though. So about pretty much no health, like a one shot. It's kind of like the same way Ninth Life works, or nine lives works on the Witch, where the Witch dies, they get full health back and full resources. It's kind of like the Lich form, except you don't get full health. You have to work your way getting full health. If you don't have a lot of necrotic energy, like let's say you have no necrotic energy, that's only I believe 4 seconds of being in Lich form, and honestly that's probably not enough time to get full health back. That's enough time to maybe get half the health back. Now you have Possession. Increases the damage dealt of summoned allies by 200% for 12 seconds, completely restoring their health and removing all control effects when it is first used, and every 3 seconds for the next 12 seconds consumes 7 of the Necromancer's health and creates 7 points of necrotic energy. So that's another one I've completely forgot about that gives necrotic energy. Um, so you're only going to be able to use possession when you have a summon activated. So you can have it your ghostly allies, or another thing that I forgot to mention is when an enemy dies on your cursed land, carry-ons summon. I'm pretty sure I read it up there. But when you kill an enemy, they become a carry-on. It's not like a super strong minion or anything. It's just a regular minion. But I'm pretty sure if they spawn, then you can use possession as well. I normally wouldn't waste my possession on a carry-on. I would just use it on one of my ghostly allies. And then you've got Ghostly Flow, which is an 8.5 minute cooldown. It's a very, very long cooldown. Summons ghosts that inflict 25.3 million damage total to all enemies along the way. Victims of Ghostly Flow have their current abilities interrupted as they are stunned for 1 second and immobilized. They then slowly begin to recover their movement speed in the next 15 seconds. This can generate 11 points of necrotic energy, and the Lich form cooldown is reduced by 6 seconds for each affected enemy for each of the 3 waves of ghosts. So this is pretty much the way this works is it's like a piercing type of ability. It summons a bunch of ghosts to go straight, and it pierces all the enemies in front of you. It'll also stun all those enemies that it hits and immobilize them, and then it also gives you necrotic energy. Not per enemy that's hit, that would have been really nice, but it just gives you necrotic energy. Now we're gonna go to Summoning Stance, and unfortunately there's no talents. So with Summoning Stance, you have 3 summons right away. You do get a 4th one if you have the legendary weapon, the demon legendary weapon, but we're gonna pretend that I don't even have that. So summon Ghostly Skeleton, it's a 40-second cooldown. Summons a skeleton that inflicts 23.6 million damage to several enemies every 6 seconds. Consumes 15% of the Necromancer's health and creates 15 points of necrotic energy. Summon Ghostly Carrion, so you can summon another Carrion, but this one is a lot stronger than the other 3. This one's pretty much just as strong as all 3 of those Carrions together, the ones that you can get from the Cursed Land. So summons a carrion that inflicts significant damage to a single target, 2.83 million damage from violent attack every 0.5 seconds, consumes 15% of the Necromancer's health, and creates 15 points of necrotic energy. And then you have Summon Ghostly Vipers. So this one is a 30-second cooldown. So this one's a 30-second cooldown. Summons 3 snakes that takes 45% of the damage intended for the Necromancer and distracts enemies for 10 seconds. Consumes 15% of the Necromancer's health and generates 15 points of the necrotic energy. Viper's Bite will slow the enemy down by 70%, and if the enemy tries to move, the poison from the bite will inflict 300% more damage. Killed Vipers have a 75% chance to rejoin the fight. So this one, the Ghostly Vipers, is pretty much like your tanky summons. The Ghostly Carrion is I would say like your single target boss summon, and then the Ghostly Skeleton is like your AOE damage over time, your add clear skeleton. So it really depends. It's up to you on which one you want to use. You can honestly use any of them in any situation. You can use the Ghostly Skeleton against adds and the boss. You can use Ghostly Carrion against adds or boss, and same thing with Ghostly Vipers, adds or boss. And then for the Lich form, so you have Volley of Darkness, inflicts 13.5 million damage and knocks the enemies back. The Necromancer recovers health in proportion to the number of flies released by Sickening Nightmare. And the Sickening Nightmare inflicts 224,000 damage to the enemy every second for 25 seconds. Restores the Necromancer's health for 10 seconds, stacks up to 20 times. So that 20 stacks is going to be really, really hard to get to. You most likely won't get to it. But the thing is, you're going to want to, when you use Sickening Nightmare, you're going to probably want to, I would say, get at least 5 to 10 stacks before you use Volley of Darkness, depending on how much time you even have in the first place in your Lich stance. Like, let's say you have 8 seconds, 6 to 8 seconds, you would only try to get to like 5 to 10 stacks is what I would go for, because that right there, you're pretty much guaranteed in getting full health back when you use Volley of Darkness. Because sorry, I'm sick by the way. Um, because Volley of Darkness will pretty much, that's your healing ability. That's gonna heal you full health pretty much, or a burst amount of health. Sickening Nightmares will heal you regardless. It'll give you health for 10 seconds, but Volley of Darkness is gonna give you a lot more health back. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you my rotation that I go with. I'll just explain the rotation first before I throw it or show you. So with Ghostly Strike, I use, well, the way I start my fight or whatever, the way I normally start the whole fight, I use the summon first. So with, let's say I don't have the legendary item. So like I said, it depends on the situation I'm in. Normally I would just go with Vipers because it is a lower cooldown, and I mean they do more damage, not necessarily more damage, but they take aggro too, and they can take in the 45% of the damage that you're taking. So that's really good to have. But after you get your summon out and everything, what you would do right away is you would just go ahead and drop the Cursed Land, regardless of it being a one target or no one target, like a boss or whatever, or a bunch of enemies. You want to use the Cursed Land because, I mean, the movement speed is going to help you a lot. The movement speed reduction is going to help a lot. It won't work necessarily on all the bosses. It'll work on some, but not all bosses. So keep that in mind. And not all the enemies, not all the big enemies will be able to. Whoops, that was my chair. Not all the enemies will be able to have their speed reduced, but the majority will. So after you get Cursed Land down, you're going to use R2, R1, so that way you get Hellfire. And then you're going to use R2, R2, R1, so that way you can get Plague Clouds. And then you're going to go R2, 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 so that's 3 R2s, so that way you got that whole rotation. And then you're going to go back into using R2, R1, because Hellfire is a 4-second cooldown. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what I mean. So actually, I'll show you here. I'll show you that how the carry-ons and stuff happen. I'm not even going to summon any of my allies. So you drop the Cursed Land, R2, R1, R2, R2, R1, and then you got 1, 2, 3 carry-ons right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and fight the boss, and yeah, sometimes you get L2 to pop up as well like this. When it pops up, it's pretty nice. It's like it's an AoE ability. You do have to press it in time though before it goes away. But what happens is it just summons some like stuff to drop on the enemy. Anyways, I'm gonna show you the rotation again. So this is without using any of my summons. I'm just showing you the combo. So you use R1 first, Cursed Land, R2, R1, and then R2, R2, R1, and then R2, 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 and then you're going to go back, R2, R1, R2, R2, R1, R2, 3 times. And then you're going to go back again. So, like I said, you're going to just use R2, R1, that's the first one, R2, R2, R1, so double R2, and then 1 R1, and then the third rotation is 3 R2s. So I know that's a little confusing. It'll get a little confusing when you think about it or say it too much, but once you get a hang of it, it becomes easier. Something to keep in mind also with the Necromancer, you can't move around when you're using R2 like this. Like I want to move around, but I just can't. But it's fine. Now the summon ability that I'm talking about with the legendary. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the weapon that I have for the legendary. It's Fury the Astral Reaper. It says all the creatures summoned by the Necromancer inflict 25% more damage. Additionally, when the Necromancer is alone in an adventure, They gain the ability to summon a demon compelled by necrotic energy for a long time. The demon distracts enemies and absorbs their souls when they die, accumulating a bonus to their damage up to 900%. So this summon will do 900% more damage. They can take aggro as well. This is pretty much all the summons all in one. And it lasts for 30 minutes as well, which is really nice. It's pretty much like having a Hyperion. So that would be, you'll know you'll have it. You don't have to do anything special. You just press triangle for your summon, or Y, and then square or X if you're on Xbox. So square, which is going to be the summon, the Astral Reaper. And as you can see, it's right there. It's a nice summon to have. And if you look at the bottom left corner, it's a 30-minute cooldown. So once you get that to summon out, you're gonna go ahead and drop your statue. I normally just drop my statue right before I use my circle ability, because what's also good is when you use your statue, I was a little late, when you use your statue, you won't take any, I mean, you will take damage from all of the necrotic energy abilities, but when you go back into the statue, you get all your health back, so that's really good. And also, before I forget, when you use L2 circle or L2B, the possession ability, that means your summon's going to be taking the damage and you won't. So that's when you're going to start wanting to also use abilities as well. So I'm going to go ahead and use Cursed Land first, and then R2 circle. And as you can see, I'm not taking any damage from my necrotic energy abilities. Now I am, because it ran out, but that's because the possession ability just reduces, or it doesn't let you take any of the damage anymore. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show you the Lich form. So I would try to die, but it'll take a while, so I'm just gonna pretend I get killed, or you don't even have to pretend. So I'm just gonna use Lich form. So this is what the Lich form looks like. I have 6 seconds left, so this is what you would do. Normally you want to wait till you have at least 1 second left before you use R1. So just keep spamming R2 before you use R1. So you're going to use R1 when you have about 1 to 2 seconds left of your Lich form. So make sure you are looking at that timer. You don't have to worry about taking damage because you're not going to die as in the Lich form, because you're a ghost. And it is a minute cooldown too. So that's yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. So I'm just gonna go over the rotation one more time. Also, don't worry about using square automatically. Just use square whenever it pops up on your screen. Don't worry about having to actually use it whenever. So the rotation with the combo, you use R2 R1, R2 R2 R1, R2 R2 R2, and then R2 R1, R2 R2 R1, and then R2 R2 R2, and then if you see that square pop up, use it. And that's pretty much it. You can use your statue whenever you pretty much want to. Like I said, I wouldn't really, don't use your statue if you have low health, because if you use it when you have low health, you never know, you might pick up a health orb right before you get teleported back, so that would be pretty bad. Because you would go right back down to the health that you just had. So let's say you have 25% health remaining. You use your statue, you pick up the health orb, and then you get bumped up to like 40% health. And then you get teleported back into your statue, you're back to 25% health. So make sure you don't use your statue when you have low health. Use it only when you have high health. And then the Lich form, you can either manually activate it yourself, or you can wait till you're almost dead to activate it. If you manually activate it, I would just wait till you have 100 necrotic energy. Don't use it if you have anything less than 90 necrotic energy. And that's pretty much it. So just for good measures, with the combo, it's 1 R2, 1 R1, and then next one 2 R2s and then R1. The next combo, 3 R2s and then R1. And if you're fighting a bunch of enemies like this, use Cursed Land first, so that way you can get your summoned. Just like that. and then you'll see them pop up 1, 2, 3, and that's it. So if this video helped you out at all, go ahead and leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, concerns, or anything about the Necromancer, let me know. And also with this weapon, with the Astral Reaper weapon, this is, I'm not sure if it's on Xbox. I don't think it is, but on PlayStation it is available as of right now. It won't be after this invasion is complete. I believe after the demon invasion is over, it won't be available. So if you can, try to pick it up. I don't know if they're gonna set them out as a single drops rather than a bundle pack, but either way, it's a really good weapon to have, especially if you're a solo type player, because this definitely changes the game for you, because I mean it just does a lot. But don't worry, if you don't have this weapon, you don't necessarily need it, because you do have the other 3 summons, which is also just as good. Not just as good, but they're useful. They're super useful. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. If you like it, go ahead and like it and subscribe. If you want to see more, go ahead and post what you want to see. This is All Day One on the PS4. Have a good day, good night, and peace.